So rather than it's a bit of
Now on BBC Three, Greg Palast investigates why this family has been associated with so many scandals. The Bush family fortunes.
The Bush family. Wealthy, powerful, by any measure, a true dynasty. For generations, the Bushes were a hidden force in American finance and politics. Now, they've come out from the shadows. How have they claimed their place at the top of the pyramid of power? The Bushes have given America 2 presidents, and there may be more on the horizon. Do they have the right stuff, or just the right name?
If our current president had a name that didn't end with Bush, would he be in the Oval Office today?
No, he would not.
I don't see how.
No, he would still be hanging out at country clubs.
Absolutely not. He's a Bush, and he's in the White House because he's a Bush.
No way in hell. The fix was in, and that's the only reason he's in the position he's in.
I, George Walker Bush, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
That I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
He's sworn to lead the world's last superpower. In his hands, delicate intricacies of international relations.
I can't name the general.
And it's
General.
And the Prime Minister of India?
The new Prime Minister of India is, no.
A commanding post where words can move armies.
A major U.S. Daily story about subliminal messages. I don't think we need to be subliminal.
It's, of course, common to say George W. Bush is, dumber than a box of rocks. But that misses the point about who George W. is. Yes, he doesn't have the brain muscle to do any heavy lifting, that's clear. But at the same time, that's not his purpose.
I can hear you, the rest of the world hears you, and the people...
What is his purpose, the real agenda?
And the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
September 11 would transform his presidency and the president's image from good old boy to an Abe Lincoln, protector of the American Republic.
In the days, really the minutes before 9/11 erupted, his popularity was headed south. He was seen as an absentee president, and people were challenging his intellect. All of that was welling and coursing around in the weeks building up to 9/11, and all of it was promptly forgotten.
It's that real strong leadership that comes through, and people just always recognize that he was a natural leader.
He is an honest, equitable, hard-working man, and that's why we've supported him unequivocally. And I think he's doing a fabulous job.
After the September 11 attack, his popularity soared, and few were willing to ask questions about how he arrived at the pinnacle. I've been tracking the Bushes for years. In politics, power, profits, these guys are the grandmasters of the game. I'm still on their trail. Texas, Florida, Washington. What drives these powerful men? And where are they driving us?
It is important for people in the world to hear that should I threaten our national security interests, there will be reprisal.
Victory in Iraq cements George W. Bush's image as heroic warrior. An image painted forever in the public's mind by this landing on the deck of the aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln. The president makes much of his days as a fighter pilot at the time of the Vietnam War.
Because of you, our nation is more secure, Because of you, the tyrant has fallen and Iraq is free.
Did you see him landing the jet on the Abe Lincoln?
I thought that was one of the neatest things I had ever seen. And watching all of the soldiers on that deck with their commander-in-chief and then having him wade in and having just seeing that interaction, I just thought that was fabulous.
It was a cheap political stunt. It was not his airplane, it was the taxpayers' airplane. They had to get the aircraft carrier to turn around so that they would get the proper view that they wanted for the cameras of Bush landing and standing before the brave troops who had indeed put their lives at risk. George W. has never put his life at risk, not during the Vietnam period. His kids were not at risk in the Iraqi war. This was Bush political operatives using the U.S. military to try to advance Bush's political career.
Here's this politician who didn't have the guts to go do it himself, go out and put on our uniform and go out on our aircraft carrier and grandstand as if he's some type of hero. And I don't think he's a hero. I think he's a phony.
(1968), Vietnam. Young Americans by the thousands were drafted and sent to the jungles for a war without glory. Even the privileged at George Bush's Ivy League college faced the war draft. And in dorm rooms, discussion turned to the decision to fight or flee. I met with the president's Yale roommates on their way to lunch at the White House with their old friend.
Oh boy, a long time ago. That's the president. It's me. Haven't changed a bit. That's Robert Dieter. All very accomplished golfers, as you can see.
And how come you don't wear a hat?
I don't know. I just don't wear a hat. I want to look different.
I'm always amazed at what I see on the television, that persona and the public one and the scripted one, as opposed to the one that we knew in college and know now, where he's a very down-to-earth, relaxed, witty, funny guy.
So did you talk with your roommate about the war in Vietnam being drafted?
I think so, yeah, as I remember it. The military choice was something that all of us at that point we're going to have to face in one way or another.
Did you sign up, or did your number come up in the lottery for the draft?
No, I was just planning to enlist because at that time it was just inevitable that you were going to get drafted.
Hey, this is Bob Reddy with your National Guard Hope. And I want to tell you that the story of today's Army and Air National Guard is something all Americans can be proud of.
What Bob Hope doesn't mention is that getting into the Guard is a way to get out of Vietnam. With just 12 days to go before he became subject to the draft, George Bush applies for the Air Guard. Problem for George was there were 100,000 would-be draft dodgers queued up ahead of him. For George W. Bush to get into the Texas Air Guard, safest unit in the military, he had to take a test. And he scored out of a possible 100, 25. Just 1 point above too dumb to fly. But that didn't stop young George from getting that plum position in the cockpit.
Some folks have referred to it as a champagne unit because if you examine exactly who was in that unit, it seemed to have a higher number of very close friends of George W. Bush who really lived in the same neighborhood, attended the same schools, the same private schools, and frankly very well-heeled, very affluent, many heirs to oil fortunes, or frankly powerful politicians.
To find out how George Bush got the cushy job of defending Houston, Texas from Viet Cong attack, I spoke with a former Air Guard Lieutenant Colonel, Bill Burkett.
Do you think George W. Bush may have gotten some special treatment?
In that case, and in almost every case in dealing with the National Guard, treatment that I would not have received, treatment that other soldiers would not have received. He came into the National Guard under a special favor from the Lieutenant Governor's office. When there was a waiting list, he was put at the top of the list. Being able to have the United States government spend $1 million teaching you to fly, now that's pretty special treatment. And when you have an aptitude score of 25, and you have people that have scored much higher than that have been on a waiting list for a period of time, and you're automatically elevated to number one on the list, it would tell you that he got special treatment.
Now, does that mean that he effectively was able to get out of going to Vietnam and getting out of the draft?
Oh, sure. Sure it does. 12 days prior to his student deferment going out. Look, I'm as guilty as anybody. I got into the National Guard for one simple reason. I was scared to go to Vietnam. I'm honest. I'll tell people that. But let's be honest about this. Did he get out of going to Vietnam? Sure he did. It galls me. It literally galls me to see somebody who is a wannabe, an image man, stand and take an image and lace himself in a uniform and try to build that image for a political purpose or something other than something that's real.